Cool. We are live now on the YouTube. All right, we ready to go? Then let's go ahead and get on to this. Good Thursday evening, everybody. If you know me, if you don't, that's fine. I'm probably not the guy you're here to see. Sports Director Ryan Kelly at WCTV, joining you here from live in the WCTV studio. First of 10 of these we're going to do all throughout the season on Thursday night. Of course, Voice to Voice is the name of our segment. It'll be me plus the actual voice, the voice of the Seminoles, Mr. Jeff Culhane, coming off his first game against Duquesne, a 47-7 victory for the Garnet and Gold, but of course an important game on the horizon. The Louisiana State Tigers, otherwise known as LSU. That's who Florida State's going to be playing in the Caesars Superdome this Sunday night. WCTV will be there, as well as in Miami for the Orange Blossom Classic for Florida A&M and Jackson State. But tonight we are talking about the Noles. So listen, no matter what platform you're joining us on, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Facebook, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, I've got both of these little mobile devices right here. I'm keeping a track of both of those feeds. If you have any questions after the interview, well, we're going to get right to them. We're going to talk, address your concerns, talk a little bit of football. As a matter of fact, college football is on right now. Pittsburgh and West Virginia currently playing up in the Steel City. So why not have a little fun? Why not talk a little football? And, of course, Valdosta State playing as well. But enough of me monologuing and talking. Let's get to what you came to see. The first edition of Voice to Voice, myself and voice of the Seminoles, Jeff Culhane. Jeff Culhane, voice of the Seminoles, week one under the belt. Man, how did that feel?
Yeah, it felt unbelievable. Obviously, every first game, it seems like it's slow motion in the month of August, getting to that opening weekend, and this was no different. A lot of work, a lot of fun, a lot of time, but it felt amazing to be able to, step into Gene Deckerhoff's booth and call a season opener of Florida State football, and now looking forward to everything else upcoming. This is certainly a big week with everything going on in New Orleans with LSU and just a primetime matchup, a battle of blue bloods down in the Bayou, and let's have some fun. Should be great.
And on top of not only just a first game, when you've got like a 2-month buildup and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting, what even was that final like 24 hours like? Oh gosh, it's finally here.
Honestly, Ryan, a lot of excitement. I know a lot of people ask me the question, how are you going to feel? Are you nervous? Are you scared to follow up Gene? And look, certainly there's no replacing Gene Deckerhoff, the legend that he is. But I was excited. I was ready to go. I was really enthusiastic to be able to have the shot of going in and getting one under our belts. And it was the first time that William Floyd and Tom Block and our entire crew had worked together on the air. And so there's a little bit of unknown there, certainly trying to find that rhythm and find that groove. Man, I thought, those two guys are pros. They've been doing this for a long time here. I thought we really hit it very well, and we had a blast. I thought it turned out as well as possibly could on Saturday night for the first one. Travis, zone read. He's going to run it himself. May throw it. Travis cuts it up. Travis dives. He's in there. Touchdown! FSU!
Last question for you before we start talking X's and O's. Just touchdown FSU. Where did it come from? How long did you try to kind of develop something signature for a touchdown call?
Yeah, the trot in there baby line has been something I've had and I've used in previous stops, and everybody at my previous stop was asking me, so you taking it with? Because we want to keep it here, and I said, no, that one's coming with me. That one's mine. And so took that one with. We had a couple of great moments. Trey Benson's long touchdown run was a fun one to build up to. But yeah, the touchdown, FSU just kind of slowing it down a little bit and emphasizing, really wanting to emphasize the success of the play and of the moment for those listening in and taking it all in and having fun with it.
Jeff, switching, you already talked a little bit about the running game. Successful teams, tough teams run the football. One of the things that Mike Norvell said after the second scrimmage was he feels he's got a tough football team. You don't do that and not have 3 guys that rush for over 100 yards first time in school history. It's pretty clear that he got what he thought he was getting.
I mean, a place like Florida State, so many great moments, so many great players, and, iconic memories. And to be a part of something like that where I don't care who the opponent is, to have 3 100-yard rushers all in the same contest for the first time ever, that's a masterful feat. And I'm with you. You hear Coach talk a lot about his excitement towards the physicality of his group. Starts up front with the offensive line. You got a lot of returning players there, a lot of guys that have played a lot of snaps, whether it's here or coming in from somewhere else. And you have to also credit the tight end room, Marquiston Douglas, Preston Daniel, Wyatt Rector, to name a few, Cam McDonald as well, who got some time after a little bit of a limited fall camp, and certainly the wide receivers got locked in and made some big plays, scooping out DBs and safeties at the second level. So Trayshawn Ward, Lone Star Feely, and Trey Benson, and even throwing there Rodney Hill at the end with a touchdown run. All those guys, what I learned, Ryan, is those guys don't need a lot. They just need a sliver of room, and they're going to make some things happen. They run hard. They run angry. They run with the chip on their shoulders. It was fun to watch.
You kind of took my next question out of my mouth, so we'll just move on to the guy under center, Jordan Travis. First real time that he's been able to say day one he's the starting guy. It's going to be his job. Certainly looked more than comfortable playing the role of QB1.
Calm, cool, collected, in control. The line and the terminology I've heard from Mike Norvell and from Alex Atkins is he's taking ownership of the offense. He's got the keys. He's driving the car. He's making the decisions where that car is headed as well. And that's no easy feat for a quarterback at the college level, at the collegiate level. And so I thought he looked the part in so many ways. It wasn't a game on Saturday night where Jordan needed to be the centerpiece or needed to take over. He just needed to lead this group and get him into the right plays and the best sets to be the most successful. He did that and then some, and then was extremely efficient throwing the football, 11 of 15, over 200 yards passing, distribute the ball to so many different people. Micah Pittman with 4 catches. Kentron Portier looked great, had a career night on Saturday. And so I tell you, I think Saturday night, Ryan, was an extension of what we've seen from Jordan Travis in fall camp. He was locked in and near perfect.
I'd agree with that 100%. He was so consistent throughout camp. Another thing that was clearly consistent was the defense. It's what a lot of people thought was going to be the strength of this team. The front seven looked superb. Again, the opponent you grade on a bit of a weighted scale, but certainly looked as advertised again.
Well, I think, I think the number was 164 total yards of offense allowed. Is it the least amount in going back to, I believe, 2015? The expectation for this team, these are tough games where you come in as the team expected to dominate, and there's really no room for error, right? You're supposed to come out and do what we saw. If anything less than that happens, then the questions start to be asked about what's wrong. Well, this team was ready to play, and they were excited to play. You see a team that's bought in to their head coach right now and what his message is. And, defensively, Adam Fuller's got a really good group. And you outlined some of the different items there, but the returning talent infused with the talented incomers from the transfer portal and different pieces, younger pieces as well. There's a good mix. I feel like you really have talent, depth, and experience at all three levels of this defense. And to see them go out and do what they did, suffocating for a full 60 minutes, I know they would have liked the shutout. They got put in a tough spot after the interception, but that's football. That's part of the game. It was a near perfect performance by Adam Fuller's defense Saturday night.
I know Chip Baker over at baseball was hoping to drive a spike through one and give one to Adam Fuller for his first shutout. Yeah. He sent me an emoji on Sunday after I said maybe it happens today. A little, missed it by that much. But you know what? If you're going to grade on that scale, that's not exactly the worst thing in the world.
We're for that kid who just scored his first goal. We're for the new hire who's just looking to fit in. We're for that person who's impossible to shop for. We're for congratulating you on all your years of hard work. We're awards for you, and we're for helping you celebrate life's special moments.
You mentioned it off the top. We're turning to a huge one. Week 1, New Orleans, Louisiana Kickoff, Florida State, LSU. No matter where these two programs have been the last couple of years, it's like Mike Norvell said on Monday.
It's Florida State and LSU playing in the Superdome. Let's go. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, if you're not fired up for this one, I mean, it's two storied programs. Prime time. It's what college football is all about, and we're definitely looking forward to it.
I mean, come on. This is a game that really could propel either of these teams because everyone's going to be watching. The nation is going to have their eyes on this. This could be a game that really is a springboard for either the Seminoles or the Tigers.
That's what it's all about. It's why you come to Florida State. It's why you put in all the time. That's why you're sweating your tail off in the summertime. Josh Storms and his staff are pushing you and tearing you down and building you back up again. And this is big boy football now. These are two of the blue blood programs in all of college athletics. And to do it on a neutral site like the Superdome, I think, Ryan, what I find very interesting is both of these programs can call this venue home to a certain degree. There's been a ton of success and memorable moments in this building for both of these teams. And, LSU, obviously, it's literally home for them, just an hour down the road from Baton Rouge. But, it's been a minute since Florida State has been in New Orleans. But, you connect yourself back to the glory days, and so many great memories were made in that building. National championship, certainly in the 99 season, January 4th of 2000. And so there's a cat and mouse game component to it as well. With Brian Kelly in his first year, he knows who his quarterback is. He says he's not going to name it. Some of that chess game going back and forth. And with LSU, what are they going to look like? With the different players they have in, the different coaches they have in. I'm not going to call it a guessing game, but you're trying to go out and find as much film as you possibly can on what you know of this talent and what you know of these coaches, and form your game plan and try and get as prepared as possible. So, I can't wait. This is going to be a blast Sunday night, the only show in football around the country.
You mentioned it, Florida State and LSU haven't played in almost 30 years, but Florida State and Brian Kelly have a whole lot of recent history. Mike Norvell said it on Monday. They're very multiple in what they do, so it's a bit of a guessing game sometimes because there's so many ways that offense can attack you. Of course, even with the new offensive coordinator, and again, one that Mike Norvell's known and is comfortable with, what is it going to take to get these guys, because they are a bit of an unknown. They are a bit of a question mark.
Well, look, I think it's like Coach talks about, you can game plan and do whatever you can to be prepared for the opponent, but your plan, Florida State's plan in place, you got to do what you do well. And there's going to be certainly a feel of, pivoting throughout this game. You're going to have your plan, you're going to have your script, and you're going to have to pivot off of that a little bit. Adjustments will be key. These are two teams that I think are very evenly matched. I think Florida State certainly has more of to me, a together feel with the third year of Mike Norvell and the way this team is bought in right now.
The continuity is huge.
Yep, and playing one game. I know, again, we talk about the opponent. I think that one game is massive for just getting a little bit of a vibe, and LSU hasn't played. Everything for them is the first time, essentially across the board on Sunday night, and so you got to do what you do well, but I think also certainly creating some adjustments and being able to maneuver on the fly is going to be critical over 60 minutes.
Finally, you're going to have the bird's eye view, the best seat in the house. You'll be able to see it all unfold. Florida State wins this game if?
Well, I think Florida State has to have obviously a complete game. They have to, do the little things that are cliche. They have to be able to take care of the football. They've been so great in the red zone, Ryan. 39 consecutive trips, putting points on the board in the red zone. If they can keep that streak alive, that's going to go a long way. And there's going to be a moment or two in this game where your will is challenged a little bit. Your belief is challenged because LSU is a highly talented bunch. They've got one of the great coaches in all of football, and Brian Kelly. They're going to have some things lined up that will be successful. How do you bounce back from that with a raucous crowd in a crazy environment? How do you stay together and do all of those things? If you're able to stay tight, able to limit the big plays and limit turnovers and convert in the red zone the way this team has, we could be hearing the war chant echoing throughout French Quarter late into Monday morning.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's some guys who'd love to cut up some turf and bury it in the sod cemetery. A huge game Sunday night. You already know. We'll have it for you, of course, coverage throughout the week on WCTV. This man have the call on Sunday night. Jeff Culhane, let's do this again soon.
All right, let's do it. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
And so there you have it, folks. First one that we're in the books. Going to do 9 more of these throughout the season. This is the first of 10 with Jeff Culhane. First of all, we appreciate the time. Jeff's a really busy man, of course, doing the Behind the Mic podcast for Florida State, calling the games, doing the coaches show on the radio. A lot of his busy time. So we appreciate him taking that. First of all, let's dive into this matchup a little bit. A couple notes. If you have any questions, again, feel free to put them here in the chat, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. We'll make sure to get to those if you got them. Quarterback, yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Jaden Daniels, Garrett Nussmeier. Brian Kelly says he knows who he's going to start. By the way, no relation to Brian Kelly. But we don't know who it's going to be yet. They're not guys with starkly different skill sets. So as to what advantage it brings, that's either one way or the other. But it's really clear when you look at this matchup on paper where this is going to come down. Whose offensive line can stand up to whose front seven, because that's going to be the strength of both of these units. We all know that Florida State's got a pretty stacked one, and you're going to need to see a good performance all across that defensive line. You're going to need to see Fabian Lovett, Robert Cooper, Jared Verse, of course, the transfer from Albany. You're going to need to see Tatum Bethune, the transfer from UCF, step up in big moments and in big situations and try to slow down that LSU offense, because no matter who the quarterback is, those wide receivers are very, very good. And if you give LSU some time, they can make you suffer, because eventually one of them will get open. Speaking of wide receivers, going to be a big test for Florida State as well. The injury status of Johnny Wilson, of course, still up in the air. Seems like he tweaked an ankle last week against Duquesne. The Noles said that he was able to come back into that game if they wanted to. Of course, they held him out for precautions. It was a 40-point win after all. We'll see there. Of course, as you've seen, maybe some reports from practice throughout the week, Winston Wright is starting to take some kickoff returns. I'm not saying he's going to play in this game because, quite honestly, your guess is as good as mine. But the West Virginia transfer is getting healthier and healthier and healthier. You saw good things last week out of Kentron Portier in that game against Duquesne. But, of course, LSU is a completely different monster. Mike Norvell talking with the press today. You may have heard him. He said he's excited to see the nation see the team that he's seen in practice. It's very, very clear that they're confident about where they are, where they're going, what they're doing. And I mean, it's just great to see Florida State back in a game like this, right? LSU nor Florida State is not exactly going to be anybody's playoff picks this year, but we all know what the two programs are capable of when they're operating at peak efficiency. LSU thinks they've got the guy to get them back there in Brian Kelly. Florida State, of course, has felt confident about Mike Norvell. They've stood through him through some tough times as the arrow continues to seem to point back up, and no pun intended, seems to climb back to the top. But this is a game that, listen, it's not going to ruin anybody's season if you don't win this game, but if you win, it kind of changes your idea of what's possible, right? It kind of makes you think, well, if we can beat big bad LSU out of the SEC, who, yeah, despite their record and despite a new coach, still has plenty of talent, then, yeah, we can beat Louisville. And, maybe we can beat Clemson. And maybe you start thinking more and more and more about what the ceiling is rather than worrying about what the floor is. Florida State has had so many things go wrong for it over the last 5 years, over the last 3 head coaches, that you kind of find yourself going to that worst case scenario. If Florida State can win this game, I think it's going to be a big relief, probably for you at home, for those of us that cover the team, those of us that are just kind of kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I'm sure there's probably some of that in the locker room too, but you haven't really seen that throughout fall camp. Every time we've been there, you see a very confident football team. You see a team that's very, very attached to what they're doing in their processes. So overall, I'm just excited to watch it. It's just going to be exciting to have Florida State in a big showcase game again and not be some, oh my goodness, underdog. I mean, Notre Dame last year was awesome, but outside of maybe the more optimistic of fans, nobody really thought that Florida State was going to push that game into overtime, have a chance to win that football game. LSU's a 3-point favorite. This is a field goal game, and you could probably say that even though this is a neutral site, this will be more of an LSU home game. So the odds makers out in Vegas might actually be pointing that spread a little bit more towards LSU because they expect there to probably be more purple and gold in the stands in a place that LSU is very, very comfortable. As Jeff said, this is literally their home away from home, even though Florida State has, of course, had some great moments there as well. The 99 national championship game that took place in January 2000, the fifth quarter and the French Quarter. There's been so many great moments for FSU in New Orleans. It's been a long time since the Noles have played in the Superdome, but it's going to be great to have them back there again. I will be traveling there on Saturday after your football Friday night. On Friday night, we'll have coverage from there. Any Rattler fans watching, Dominic Miranda is going to have you covered down in South Florida. That's where the Orange Blossom Classic is, of course, against Jackson State. We're going to see what's happening with, of course, all the off-the-field issues that plague not just the Rattlers, but Deion Sanders' Tigers as well. Excuse me there. Valdosta State, the Blazers are playing right now. Dominic Miranda's at Bazemore Hyder Stadium. He'll have more highlights for you coming up at 11. Hey, stick with us all throughout the weekend. We're going to have you covered. We go anywhere these teams play because we know it's important. We know that's what you want. We know that's what sports is about because after all the off-the-field stuff, all those stories, nobody cares if there's nobody keeping score on Saturday or in this case, Sunday. So please stick with us. Of course, if you haven't already liked our Facebook page, like it. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, do so. We'd really, really appreciate it. We've been putting a lot of good stuff on the WCTV Sports YouTube page, and a lot of you have been responding to it really, really well. We thank you so much for all that. Let's keep it going throughout the fall. But for now, I think that's going to just about do it from here at the WCTV studios. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next time.